Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and whispered words you hoped would change your life? I am worthy. I am abundant. I am loved. I am enough. Maybe you said them slowly with conviction. Maybe you repeated them dozens of times, trying to convince yourself. Maybe you even wrote them on sticky notes and pressed them to your walls, hoping the constant reminder would finally make the truth sink in. But if we're honest, how often do those words feel empty? How often do they dissolve as soon as life throws the next challenge, the next bill, the next rejection? Why is it that we can speak such beautiful affirmations and still feel hollow inside? This is where many begin to doubt themselves. They wonder if maybe they're not doing it right. Maybe they're not disciplined enough, spiritual enough, strong enough. Some even conclude that they are broken, that affirmations work for others, but never for them. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is the method? Words are powerful, yes. But words spoken on the surface cannot rewrite the scripts that live in the depths of the mind. It's like pouring clean water into a glass that is still filled with dirt. You can pour and pour, but the water never looks clear because the residue remains at the bottom. That is what happens when we try to use affirmations to cover over beliefs we haven't examined. The mind hears the new words, but it also clings to the old story. And between the two, it will always believe the one it feels is truer. When you declare, I am enough, but deep down believe, I am not, there is a clash, and the clash is exhausting. You may feel a temporary spark of hope when you say the phrase, but it fades, because underneath, a voice whispers back, no, you're not. You know you're not. This is why affirmations often fail. They're like painting over cracks in a wall without repairing the foundation. You can cover the damage, but you cannot silence the truth of what lies beneath. And maybe that's the real invitation here. Not to cover over, but to uncover. Not to decorate the surface, but to look deeper. So let me ask you, what are the words you repeat to yourself when no one is listening? What are the quiet phrases you would never dare to write on a vision board because they sound too dark, too heavy, too real? Could it be that these are the true affirmations you've been practicing all along? Not in front of the mirror, but in the silence of your mind? Stay with me. Because once we begin to see these hidden affirmations, the ones we never chose but somehow believed, we can begin the real work. And that work is not about adding more words. It's about releasing the ones that were never true to begin with. So first, take a breath. Pause. Ask yourself right now, what hidden affirmation has been running my life? Share it in the comments if you feel safe to. Because when we bring the hidden to the surface, it loses its power to control us. Beneath every word you speak, there's a story. Beneath every affirmation, there is a belief. And here's the truth most people miss. Your life is not shaped by the words you say out loud, but by the beliefs you quietly agree to within. Think about it. From the moment you were born, you were absorbing messages. From parents, teachers, culture, experiences. Some were spoken outright. Don't be too loud. You'll never make it if you don't try harder. Money doesn't grow on trees. Others were unspoken but carried just as deeply. The glance of disappointment, the silence after a mistake, the withdrawal of love when you didn't meet expectations. All of these became threads woven into the fabric of your mind. Not chosen, not examined, simply inherited. And over time, they hardened into beliefs. I'm too much. I'll never be enough. Love has to be earned. The world is against me. These are not just casual thoughts. They're lenses. They filter everything you see. They tell you what is possible, what is safe, what is allowed. And until they are questioned, they operate silently, like hidden machinery shaping every decision, every relationship, every dream you dare or don't dare to pursue. This is why affirmations so often fail. Because when you say, I am loved, but the hidden machinery of your mind is still running the old program, love is conditional. the machinery wins. The deeper belief overrules the surface declaration. It's not that you're weak. It's that the mind is loyal to what it already believes is true. And until that loyalty is questioned, no amount of repetition can undo it. Let's be honest. Have you ever repeated an affirmation so many times that it almost began to hurt? As if the more you said it, the more you noticed the gap between what you were declaring and what you were actually feeling. That ache is the signal. It is your inner self saying, "Stop covering me with words. Look at what I really believe." This is the beginning of real transformation, not piling on more words, but daring to ask, what is the story I am still carrying? Where did it come from? And do I still want it? Pause here and let yourself wonder, if your life is a mirror of your beliefs, what reflection has been showing up again and again? Is it possible that the repeating patterns, the struggles, the disappointments, the fears are not punishments, but simply echoes of old beliefs asking to be seen? Stay with this thought, because once you recognize the hidden machinery, you gain the power to change it. The stories you inherited do not have to be the stories you continue to live. And now, pause, take a moment in the comments and write down one old belief you suspect has been quietly running your life. Naming it is not weakness, it is power. It is how we begin to disarm the machinery. If affirmations are the paint upon the surface and beliefs are the roots beneath, then where does real transformation begin? Not in louder declarations. Not in brighter posters or stickier notes upon the mirror. Transformation begins in vision, in the way you see. We are trained to think that healing is about replacing a negative thought with a positive one, darkness with light, fear with love. But this approach still assumes the negative thought has weight, still treats the fear as if it is real enough to fight against, and in fighting it, we reinforce it. Think of it like this. Imagine you are standing before a mirror and you see a shadow across your face. You could spend hours insisting, "There is no shadow, there is no shadow." You could affirm your radiance until your throat goes dry. Yet the shadow remains, not because you lack power, but because the mirror itself is smudged. The problem is not your face. The problem is perception. And this is the secret. Perception can be cleaned. Belief revision is not about piling more words on top of falsehood. It is about questioning the falsehood itself until it dissolves. When you release the belief, "I am unworthy," you do not need to chant, "I am worthy," 1,000 times. Worthiness is already your nature. It does not need reinforcement. It simply needs to be seen. Can you feel the difference? One approach is effortful, full of tension, a desperate attempt to convince yourself of something you still secretly doubt. The other is effortless, a gentle unveiling of what has always been true. Positivity tries to push away the negative. Vision allows you to see through it. And once seen through, it no longer binds you. This is why real transformation often feels less like addition and more like subtraction. Less like stacking new layers on top, and more like peeling away the lies. It is not about becoming something else, but about remembering what you were before you believed otherwise. Consider this. What if you never needed to affirm abundance because the belief in lack was never true? What if you never needed to affirm love because the belief in separation was the illusion? What if the deepest healing is not learning new truths, but unlearning the falsehoods that covered them? In this light, affirmations become unnecessary because truth does not need to be repeated. When you know it, you simply live it. When you see clearly, there is no need to remind yourself to see. The real work, then, is not to decorate the surface with positivity, but to let vision pierce through the fog of old beliefs. To let the quiet, steady recognition of truth replace the desperate chant of affirmations. And when this vision dawns, it is not fragile. It does not vanish when life becomes difficult. It does not need to be defended or rehearsed. It is stable because it rests not on words, but on reality. The world teaches us to chase louder answers, say it more often, Push it harder, believe it until you break through. But truth does not arrive through strain, it arrives through surrender. Real change does not come from battling your mind, but from sitting with it quietly, honestly, without judgment. Imagine this: a thought arises, I'm not enough. For most of your life, perhaps you fought it. You tried to cover it with words, drown it with affirmations, silence it with achievements. And yet it lingered, didn't it? What if you did something different? What if, instead of fighting the thought, you simply noticed it? What if you looked at it gently and realized, this is just a thought, a passing shadow. It is not who I am. That is the work. Not resistance, not replacement, but recognition. Recognition that the thought is not you. Recognition that you are the one who sees it, not the one it defines. The moment you step back and witness a belief, you loosen its grip. You begin to see how fragile it really is, a story picked up long ago, believed because you did not know you could question it. And once you see it for what it is, it begins to dissolve. This is the quiet undoing, not dramatic, not glamorous. But it is freedom, because when the false falls away, the truth does not need to be forced. You do not need to remind yourself you are whole when you see that brokenness was only ever an illusion. You do not need to declare, I am loved, when you recognize that love has never left you. The affirmations fall silent because the truth no longer needs defending. So why do affirmations fail? Not because you are weak, not because you lack discipline, not because positivity just isn't for you. They fail because you were never meant to cover lies with prettier lies. You were meant to see through them. Words can decorate the surface, but only vision transforms the root. Affirmations try to persuade. Truth needs no persuasion. And here's the most liberating part. You don't have to manufacture the truth. You don't have to shout it into being. You only have to clear away what blocks your sight of it. So I ask you, what if you stopped trying so hard to convince yourself? What if you gave yourself permission to look directly at the old story and whisper, I see you, but you are not me? You never were. Can you imagine how light your life could feel without the constant battle of words? Can you imagine living not from rehearsed positivity, but from effortless knowing? This is what awaits you when you step out of the cycle of surface affirmations and into the deeper work of belief or vision. This is the shift from trying to become to remembering what you already are. And maybe right now, as you hear these words, you can feel a stirring in yourself, a sense that this is true. That beneath every story of lack, fear, or unworthiness, something untouched has always been there, waiting, watching, whole. That something is you, not the self that needs to be affirmed into existence, not the self that trembles beneath unworthiness, the self that simply is unshaken, untouched, unbroken. And that self does not need words. It needs only to be recognized. So here's my invitation to you. Take this with you into your day. When the old voices rise, when the mind whispers you're not enough, or you'll never make it, don't rush to plaster affirmations over them. Instead, pause, breathe. Look at the thought and ask yourself, is this true? Or is this simply an echo of a belief I no longer need? If you practice this gently, consistently, you will notice something miraculous. The false beliefs lose their weight, and as they fall away, you won't need to remind yourself of the truth. You will simply know it, and that knowing will change everything. If these words touched something in you, share this message with someone who is still struggling under the weight of forced positivity. And in the comments, if you feel ready, tell me, what belief are you ready to let go of today? Because sometimes the most powerful affirmation is not, I am enough, but simply, I no longer believe the lie that I am not.